welcome to another episode of Everyday Home Improvements. Today we're going to be grouting this floor. We finished it the other day and we let it sit for about, I'd say about 36 hours now. It's been sitting and drying. So you're going to start with removing all the spacers and detailing your grout lines. It's very important to make sure that you have clean grout lines before you grout. All right. You can keep your back to it too if you wanted.
Hey,
Hey, good morning.
Here we're pulling all the spacers out and getting ready to detail the grout lines.
All right, now that we're done prepping the floor for grout, which we did, we cleaned all the grout lines, vacuumed it out, made sure they were perfectly clean. And now we're gonna move on to grout. So when grouting, this grout that we're using already has sealers and stain blockers in it. If you're using a grout that doesn't have sealers and stain blockers in it, you might wanna put a sealer or a stain blocker in it or apply it to it after you're done, depending on what the directions on the back of that label reads. A couple things you're gonna need when grouting. You're gonna want a pair of gloves. When mixing the grout, you're gonna wanna use a mask. You're going to need a trowel, margin trowel. You're gonna need a grout float. And you're gonna need a bucket for your grout. And then a clean bucket of water with a sponge to clean up afterwards. Also, when mixing the grout, you're gonna wanna mix this grout for about 10 minutes. Then you're gonna wanna do what's called schlack, let it schlack. Just go outside, take a 10-minute break, and then when you come back in, remix it. If you have to add a tiny bit of water, do so at that time. You want a good consistency, but definitely make sure you let it schlack. So this is Everyday Home Improvements, and this is step-by-step on how you grout a floor. see why I said you want to wear a mask. This stuff is very deadly to kill you for sure. So you want to start with a little bit of water. You can always add more. If you put too much water in, then you're kind of screwed unless you got another bag. Again, you want to mix this very well for about 10 minutes. Once you've mixed it well for about 10 minutes, you're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes, then you're going to mix it again for a couple minutes, then it's going to be ready to apply. Okay, now that it's been a few minutes and we let the grout slack, we're going to remix it and then we're going to start applying it to the floor. I'm also not wearing a mask right now because we did the initial mix, so there's not so much dust and powder shooting up from here. Okay, now we're ready to grout. Put on our gloves. Reason for the gloves is the stuff will dry your hands out pretty good. This and thin set. I don't always use them and I paid a price for it. Follow me over here, Ed. I like to put a good amount onto the floor. When spreading this, you're going to want to go in a 45 across the grout lines like this. Zoom in here. Come down here and see what we got going. Now that you got the grout and the grout lines, let it sit for a few minutes and then you're going to come back up and you're going to wipe the floor down, and I'll show you how you're going to do that. Now that we grouted the floor and we let that sit for a little bit, we're going to wipe it down. You're going to want to take your sponges and you're going to want to wring them out really good. You want a pretty much dry sponge. Wring all the water out of it. And then just wipe the floor down.
I say just wipe the floor down, but if you notice any imperfections in the grout line, just wipe it more in the grout line until you see a consistent grout line that you like, and then it will be fine. Sometimes it sits a little heavier in the grout line and you just gotta wipe the excess away.
If you see any spots that need a little bit of grout, that maybe you missed a little bit or it sunk down into the hole, you're always gonna have a little bit of grout when you're cleaning up, laying around on the floor. Just take it with your finger and fill in that spot. You're gonna wanna constantly clean your sponge. If not, you're gonna have what's called hazing. Every time it dries, it's gonna haze up on your floor. You want to constantly clean your sponges. Alright, now that the floor is done with the grout and we let it dry for a little while, we're going to go ahead and protect the floor. We're going to roll out paper.